and it is Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Welcome back, built by the Barn Co. and presented by our friends at Resto Pros, powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Thank you for joining all of us. Mike Morgan joins. John Strickland joins in the place of Pat DeMarco this week as we kick off the Tigers and the Gamecocks, the Palmetto Bowl at noon in the upstate on Saturday. Good morning, gentlemen.
What's going on?
Morning.
Yeah, we are ready to go. I know I might be lagging a little bit on this end, as obviously
all right.
Traveling.
Hey, don't worry. I had to start up the auxiliary internet this morning because mine was just the wife had to reset it, and it's I don't know what's wrong with it. So I totally get that. It's I guess people are Googling how to brown a turkey over and over. And
got mine ready to go.
Really? That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem.
I know Phil's done it. I know Phil knows how to do it. I've been looking at it. It's very intriguing. I don't know.
It's almost thawed now.
I'm telling you, the best thing to do is go on Williams-Sonoma, buy their turkey brine, and do it for about 36 hours, and it'll be the juiciest, best turkey you've ever had in your life.
Once I started brining, I never turned back.
Yeah,
it's you're just like, changer. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the best turkey I've ever put in my mouth. So
I brine mine every year, and then I spatchcock it, and then put it on the smoker.
The spatchcock thing, the wife was talking about, where you like spackle the butter all in it and stuff.
Well, you cut the backbone out, and then you crack it and lay it flat.
Sure,
it's a lot faster. That way, you don't risk drying the breast out. And then with the brine, though, you're not going to dry it out anyway. It's going to be nice and juicy. And then another good thing to do is to take a stick of butter and stick it right under the skin on each side, and it melts all over the breast as well. And it's super good.
Making me hungry, man.
That's why it's my favorite holiday of the year.
Yeah, Phil gets it done, man.
Yeah, this is my favorite week of the year. Work is slow.
No doubt.
I'm only working a couple days this week, and football and turkey.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. And the Carolina band in the parade.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, we got a reason to actually pay attention to the parade this year. That'll be fun. I'm excited for them.
Snoopy.
I love the giant Snoopy now.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Who wrote the checks for the band to get there? I read that somewhere.
Beamer did a little bit of it.
Darius, Dawn, and Shane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dawn, and Shane,
They each gave $25,000.
25 grand.
Yep. Put them over the hump.
Very cool.
Yep. Got them over.
Who would we go
John,
to put this show in the parade? Who's giving us 25 grand if we want to take ITG and just do a remote of the parade?
John.
The View.
The View.
The way things are going, we may be replacing them. I don't know. Yeah.
Elon. That's who we ask. Elon,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Elon would open up his checkbook before the View. Just guessing.
Yeah.
So all right. So it's big overreaction day today. I just got an email alert from our Alabama site talking about benching Jalen Milroe. Now I agree, he played like crap. Don't get me wrong. Probably no Heisman anyway, but that was definitely no Heisman moment. But why would you? I mean,
that seems a little hasty.
Josh Pate's right about that. They're a trust fund fan base. There's 17 years of them not being used to any of this that we all the rest of us have to go through. Yeah. So they're just completely lost. Well, what do we do? Who do we fire? Who do we bench? Nope.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Alabama defense just hadn't been the Alabama defense of old. And, Oklahoma's got a solid defense, as we all know. And they just came out and played their best game. Now, was the touchdown they got called back a bad call? Yes, it was. But guess what? You still got beat by 21 points. So and your defense couldn't stop Oklahoma to save their life. So That's why you lost the game. It wasn't because the touchdown got called back, because if it did, you would have lost 24-10. So
That's why
you know.
Venables was hired in the first place, because say what you will about what he did at Clemson. I mean, he defensive schematically, he was as good as it got in the country.
Yeah, he's one of the best.
He's one of the best, and they're not the most talented defense in the league, not even close. But they schemed it up, and they had Milroe confused for most of the night. And they don't run the ball much anymore for whatever reason in Tuscaloosa.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, they don't have like a Will Anderson type, just absolute dog on that defense. They're talented, but they don't have the beast that we're used to seeing roll through Tuscaloosa. So you add all that up, and here you are, a loss at Vanderbilt and a thumping at Oklahoma. That's Kalen DeBoer is going to really understand the pressure cooker that is following the GOAT.
I'm kind of glad whoever they had calling plays against the Gamecocks that didn't run Jackson Arnold 25 times either.
Yeah.
Alabama had no answer for that. They didn't have an answer for Pavia back in the Vanderbilt game. And that defense they run now, it's a different scheme. They're very, they gamble a whole lot. But Oklahoma just ran right by them, and Oklahoma's defense was lights out. I thought.
Yeah.
And I'll continue to say, people that want to fire Brent out there, Venables are missing the boat. It's so much harder at Oklahoma going from the Big 12 to the SEC to get a defense to compete in this league. Their Heisman Trophy statues out front of their stadium alone will get them talent on offense. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's easy to rebuild an offense out there.
Yeah. And you know what? In that game against us, they were down 21-0 in the blink of eyes, so they had to throw the ball. And then, of course, with our D-line and pass rush, they just had no chance.
All right, so let me ask you this, John, and we'll get the rankings tomorrow night. If Alabama better be happy that Auburn is coming to Tuscaloosa this weekend, because it could be a little dicey if they'd have to go to the Plains. Just ask A&M. If Alabama takes care of Auburn and the Gamecocks are able to go to the upstate and get a victory over the Tigers, both are 9-3, but Bama's lost twice since South Carolina went down there and got beat by got upended by them 27-25. Who deserves to be in that scenario?
I mean, it's a very tough call, but here's the way I look at it, and I want to try and take my South Carolina bias out of it. Let's say South Carolina goes up to Clemson, takes care of business. Obviously, head-to-head matters, but I think there's a whole bunch of other criteria that are in the committee's, what they're looking for. Well, one is the eye test. The other is how are you playing right now? The other one is strength of schedule, I think is one of them, and your quality of wins. Well, I think if you look at South Carolina versus an Alabama or an Ole Miss, I think right now, if South Carolina can take care of business, I think you look at it after Saturday and say, well, all right, let's compare these schedules and where they sit. Well, guess what two teams in the top 25 of the playoff rankings currently – y'all know which teams have the two strongest strength of schedules?
Probably
Georgia and Tennessee.
Yeah.
No,
Georgia, right?
It's Georgia and
Tennessee.
South Carolina. Georgia and South Carolina. Those are the two top 25 teams with the two toughest schedules. Georgia's first, and we're second, right behind them.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that whole 9-game argument that people are bringing up with the SEC. I was like, well, look at the two toughest schedules. They bookend it with Power 4 opponents, ACC rivals. I mean, for what they are. I mean, Georgia Tech is what they are, but one is a common opponent.
I've got one that I'll throw out there too that snuck up on me, and I retweeted it at Morgan on Air. This is from Brandon Zimmerman, and this matters. Like this is absolutely a separator. He says, how hard is it to win on the road in the SEC? And JC and I talked about this morning in length. Winning on the road in the SEC, I'm sorry, it's just different. It's just different than the ACC, and it's different than 90% of the Big Ten stadiums. The 7 SEC teams that are in the AP Top 25 are just 13-12 in true road games this year. The teams with the best road records, Texas is 2-0. Remember, they played a neutral site, and of course, they'll be at Texas A&M on Saturday. And only one, I repeat, only one SEC team this year has 3 true SEC road victories.
I already know the answer.
That would be your
That's
South
South
Carolina
Carolina.
Gamecocks.
Yeah.
So it breaks.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it breaks down like this. Carolina's 3-1. Texas is 2-0. Georgia's 2-2. Ole Miss is 2-2. A&M is 2-2. Tennessee is 1-2. And Alabama is 1-3. If you start breaking this down the way they do in basketball, everybody knows a team is much better on their home court. Well, it's the same thing in football. Okay. There's a lot of teams that can beat a quote unquote better team at home. But what are you able to do on the road? And what Carolina has done on the road this year is better than anybody in the league. And the one loss was a game that they could have had a game-winning field goal and beaten Alabama.
If you don't fumble in the Alabama game, you probably win that game.
Right.
The one fumble in the third quarter is, or was it fourth quarter? I don't remember. But the exchange where Lenoris went to pull it on the RPO from Rocket, and he just fumbled it. That doesn't happen. We'd probably win that game, and you don't have to worry about all the onside kicks and all that at the end.
When they also have the most wins in the league against ranked opponents. 3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Here's the thing to consider too. It's like South Carolina's losses. Because that's the head-to-head, obviously, if it's Ole Miss, Bama, Carolina's 0-2 against Ole Miss and Bama. So if they factor that, then they'll put one of those two teams in. But when you look at them, the body of work, Alabama lost at 6-5 Vandy and at 6-5 Oklahoma, and lost to Tennessee. Okay. Ole Miss lost at home to 4-7 Kentucky.
Yeah.
They lost at a 6-5 Florida. And then they lost to LSU in Baton Rouge by a field goal. South Carolina's lost at home to Ole Miss early, at Alabama early. And then the third loss, there's another factor that and I don't know if they'll factor this in because they're kind of selective with how they do it. But look, man, that second half against LSU, who was missing from the Gamecocks lineup?
Yeah, the quarterback.
Lenoris Sellers. And so last year they ignored 13 wins.
Yeah.
Because of an injury at quarterback. So can they not? I mean, the refs, the officials, we said this on JC Morgan. The officials, the whole country knows it stunk, right? But a committee cannot sit there and go back and do makeup calls.
Yeah,
it just sets a bad precedent. It just is what it is. But by God, they can look at the fact that your really good quarterback was out. And it's not like he was playing poorly either. He had a big lead. He's having a great game. Yep. And so if you're gonna finagle it one way, and it's listed, head-to-head's listed, strength of schedule's listed, and then critical factors like injuries are listed. Yep. And so if you go out of that LSU game, and like I said, if you're willing to ignore 13 wins, you probably could do, because the rest, besides the head-to-head, South Carolina hasn't lost any games as bad losses like Alabama and Ole Miss have. And they've won 6. They're one of the hottest teams in the country. If you throw in a win over a top 15 Clemson as well, because everybody's griping about it, but I think it's good for Carolina. The committee likes Clemson so much because that's a more impressive win. You know what I'm saying? So I would think, and then, except for the people that I just think that are talking about the ACC getting 2 in, that's ridiculous. Except for that chatter where the SEC would only have 3, you're looking at, even if Tennessee beats Vandy, if Tennessee loses to Vandy, that and Carolina could beat Clemson, that's even better, because South Carolina, if you look at the resumes there, Tennessee's got a 10-point win at Oklahoma. When you compare common opponents, Carolina's got a 26. Tennessee would have a loss at Vandy. Carolina would have a win at Vandy by 21 points. Tennessee did beat Alabama, but it was in Knoxville. Carolina lost by 2 in Tuscaloosa. So that and then throw the ACC team on there. They beat a bad NC State team on a neutral field. Carolina would have won at Clemson, which is a 59-35 better win than NC State. I think head to head they get Tennessee if they lose to Vandy. Even if Tennessee's the third team, who's the fourth? Because you're looking at if Carolina wins, you're looking at Bama, Ole Miss, A&M only if they beat Texas.
Yeah,
Texas,
but I think
you know?
A&M is out no matter what. If we win, if we beat Clemson, that's the only if. I think A&M, because we beat them by 24 points, I think that's something they'll look at and be like, all right, well, there's no way A&M, even though they're going to the SEC championship, unless they win it. Now, if they win the SEC championship, that makes things a little different because that's an automatic in.
That's plausible.
And then I almost think Georgia would stay above us with 3 losses just because they would be, they would be 10-3. If they beat Georgia Tech, they would be 10-3, and we're 9-3. And Georgia literally has the number 1 toughest schedule in the conference.
Yeah, they have the best wins in the country.
They have a lot of good wins
too.
Yeah.
So that's the only doomsday scenario for us would be A&M going on to the SEC championship and winning. But hey, you know how
that's not going to happen. That's not
the game for me this weekend to keep an eye on is Tennessee and Vandy. Vandy wins, then your path just opens wide up with a win.
It's the same time as Carolina too. Yeah. It's in Nashville, which doesn't matter. But
but luckily for them, Roy Philpott isn't calling it. Anyways, continue.
They're going to have Fulmer in the booth.
Think about Tennessee this year, though, guys. They've kind of.
Why don't we just dig up Bob Fulton and put him in the booth on Saturday for the ball game?
So anyway, Tennessee, they Jamie's not letting us go. I can tell.
I just can't believe that ESPN thought that'd be I'm not saying he's bad. Like, you used to be one of the voices for Clemson, right? Yeah, get in there and call the rivalry game. Oh, okay, that sounds good.
This should be easy for you. You bring a great historical perspective, Roy. Hey, he called the basketball game last year. He called Clemson Carolina basketball last year, but anyway, so if you look at Tennessee this year, they kind of are similar to. I mean, their scores are like 28-18, 24-17, 20. Good on defense, not so explosive on offense. Since they scored 300 points in their first 3 games, they've really been kind of a pedestrian, run the ball type of team. Vanderbilt's not going to be intimidated by those guys. Vanderbilt's kind of the same way. That could come right down to the wire and go either way. And that doesn't mean Tennessee's not much better talent wise, but a lot of teams are much better talent wise than Vanderbilt, and they find a way to hang around. And boy, what a huge win it would be for the kill zone. I mean, I would be scared. I have some Tennessee friends. They're scared out of their minds about this one because they feel like they're right there. And so we'll see what happens. But you're right about Georgia, John. Because the Clemson, obviously the committee loves Clemson. I'm not saying anything about it. Let them love away. So that win is huge for them. And then they've had some big ones. They're the only team to beat Texas this year and beat Tennessee pretty good. So I'm with you. I think even if they lost at 10-3, they deserve to be in. And A&M with 4 losses, I don't know.
No, they're out. They're out, JC. I don't care if they win this weekend and then go to the SEC championship game and they get beat. They have no shot. They have no shot.
If A&M did go, let's say they lose. Well, yeah, if they lose this, no, let's say they. Yeah, never mind. So yeah, you're right. That wouldn't work, and they're done.
No chance. I think the rankings tomorrow night will be very similar to the coaches poll. I think you're going to have Clemson at 12, Alabama at 13, South Carolina 14, and then Ole Miss right behind us. I think that's how it's going to go. And if you're South Carolina, you take care of business. You beat the number 12 team. I think you jump Alabama, and then hopefully another one above us, another 1 or 2 maybe this weekend slip up. And I think there's a good chance you can move into that number 11 spot. Now, I will say this. I think if Clemson beats us, I'm just going to keep it real. If Clemson beats us, which would be the number 14, if my projections are right, I think if Clemson beats us at 10-2, I think they deserve to get in. I'm just going to call it like it is. If they beat one of the hottest teams in the country that everybody's talking about should be in the playoffs, I think Clemson probably should get in.
But you're saying they should get in if they lose the ACC championship game. That'd be a third loss for
Well,
Clemson.
they won't play in it.
It would be they won't go.
If Miami or SMU are going to have to lose.
I got you.
This
I got you.
weekend,
Yeah.
One of those two are going to have to lose for
right.
Clemson to get in.
I'd put
Miami
if they
could lose
take care of
this weekend.
business. If Miami and SMU win this weekend, and then you got a 10-2 Clemson team that just beat a red hot South Carolina team, I think they may sneak in there. Unfortunately,
I'm with you on that. Unfortunately, because the committee loves Louisville. I mean, Louisville had 3 losses and happened to win at Clemson and went to like 15th.
Yeah.
I think they've cooled off on them though. I mean, they're not.
Well,
even
they did lose to
15 in
Stanford.
Yeah.
I have never.
That's a good way to douse your hopes there.
I've never seen anything like that.
But
by the way,
going back to Strick, your hypothetical there. So Carolina wins at Clemson. You say they leapfrog Alabama. If they leapfrog Alabama, I mean, I'm convinced the SEC is not going to get fewer than 4 teams. And so that at that point, it's Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, and Carolina.
Yep.
I look, I wouldn't have said this a couple weeks ago because I don't
But
believe
chaos
in just
happened.
right.
Chaos
I don't
happened
believe in
this
just
past
putting BS hope up there just to like go for clicks or whatever else. But I mean, there is a conceivable path now. I truly believe that there is a conceivable path, especially if they were able to be convincing in Death Valley. Because like JC mentioned, the fact that the committee likes Clemson, that's fantastic.
Yep.
In a perfect world,
Yeah.
Clemson be a 20-point favorite on Saturday by Vegas.
Right.
That just means that it looks like a more impressive win if you go up there and take care of business. So I'm with you. I think if Carolina beats Clemson, you do leapfrog Alabama. You're ahead of Ole Miss. That candle has the flame is out, and you're behind Texas, Georgia, Tennessee. But I'd be shocked if the SEC doesn't get 4 teams. And
And Mike, I want to throw some fuel on that fire because I'm with you. I agree. I don't think that there's almost any way you can not have a 4th SEC team in there. So when it gets down to it, and you've got 4 teams sitting at 9-3, and they've all beat each other up, right? Every one of them. This team's lost to this team, and this team's lost to this team, and both these teams beat this team, but this team beat both the teams of this team. At some point in time, the stuff just kind of comes out to a wash, right? So then you start looking at the other things, and you go, all right, strength of schedule. Who's playing well at the right time of the year? So those things start going in South Carolina's favor. But when you start looking at, Ole Miss beat them by 24, that's an X against the Gamecocks. Even though maybe they shouldn't have, they did. They lost to Alabama. Loss. That's an X. Yeah, exactly. But then you start, what have you done for me lately, baby? Well, look at us. We had a 6-game winning streak, and we beat all these ranked teams in the middle of it. Ooh, how sexy is that to the committee? We just don't know. Obviously, they got to win the game first. But I think it's a great point when you get all these guys together with the same record. They've all beat each other up. What matters in that scenario? How will they explain that? That's fascinating to me.
I honestly, if Carolina's finished, there's a 5-way 9-3er. Vanderbilt. I still think it would be huge if Vanderbilt beat Tennessee. I'm with Phil on that. I can't guarantee it's going to happen. It may not. But South Carolina head to head, they didn't play Tennessee. They did play A&M and beat them pretty good. So they'd be better by comparing scores or whatever. They'd win against Tennessee. They win against A&M. Bama and Ole Miss, they have the head-to-head losses. But all 4 of these teams outside of South Carolina have lost to one of the 6-win teams in the league. Like Tennessee lost at Arkansas, A&M lost at Auburn, Bama lost at both Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. Ole Miss lost at home to Kentucky and at Florida. Kentucky's a 4-win team. So there's bad. Everybody's got bad losses
Carolina
except the Gamecocks. The worst loss for Carolina's that LSU game way back at the beginning of the year. when the quarterback got hurt in the second half. Otherwise,
right.
we would be talking about Carolina beating Clemson and getting a home game.
Yeah, no, it'd be a done deal.
So there you go.
And I'll just throw one other metric. Like, this is not in the manual that says here's the criterion, but that manual doesn't mean anything anyway. At the end of the day, it's 13 people making a judgment call. In basketball, when you have this glut of teams that you got to pick from in the bubble, and you see it every year, one of the things that is undeniably considered is how a team is playing late. They talk about the last 10 games. How's a team looking in the last 10 games? They do not ignore that at all. That is something that's absolutely considered. If Carolina shows out on Saturday, you're talking about a team that's playing some of the best football of any team in the country. You cannot ignore that. You cannot ignore that. And if, again, as I was talking about this morning, if we're just going to make it all about, well, 2 is less than 3 and 1 is less than 2, then we don't need a committee. Okay, I can have a 5th grader just go there and do simple arithmetic and say, these are the teams with the fewest losses, and therefore these are the teams that get it. But if you want to have 13 people that are so-called educated on the sport and realize the difference between a team that is flaming out toward the end of the year, i.e. Ole Miss just had a flame-out loss, Alabama just had a brutal flame-out loss, versus a team that is clearly hit its stride, and is playing some of the best football in the sport. And quite frankly, I would even extrapolate that to the Indiana issue if we want to go there. Now, Indiana's got the Big Ten backing behind it. Don't underestimate that. But seriously, if you look at what their schedule has been in that conference, they've played one of the top teams, and they just got smoked.
Yep.
They just got smoked. So, I mean, I could even make it an argument that Indiana doesn't belong as a 1 loss. I just think that at the end of the day, if you're going to really look at it in the terms, if you're not going to hide behind just the record, if you're actually going to take it and go into a rabbit hole and actually crunch numbers and look at things, every now and then Ward Manuel every week will throw out, as he's trying to sound like he's really doing intense research, well, I just think their offensive efficiency right now. Okay, is there a team that's more defensive efficient than the Gamecocks at this point in time? I mean, if you're paying attention, it's clearly one of the best defenses in the sport. So all those extraneous ancillary factors, to me, favor Carolina. It's just a matter of if the committee is willing to look beyond the simple and look next level in analyzing who the best 7 at-large teams are.
Yeah, I'm a Boilermaker fan this weekend.
I think we all are. Yeah,
I mean,
that'd be the
this just
upset of the year.
Happens to be the year Mississippi State and Purdue bottom out. And Auburn's. Now, I'm with JB. If that game were at Jordan-Hare, all bets are completely off. And I don't know
Auburn might even
Auburn's
be a
not capable of going up there. And they just, the history there in Tuscaloosa, they haven't. They won the one game in 2010, and they were down 24 points.
Yeah, I mean, that game's wild. That game's wild.
I mean, you never know. I mean, the Auburn people probably feel a little bit more confident this week than maybe they did.
Well, you think about those 2 fan bases too, JC. Auburn, toxic for the first 6-7 games. It's pretty toxic right now in Tuscaloosa, and all is gravy on the plains. So
they need a win. They need a win to get the postseason. They need a win big.
Look, Hugh Freeze. I mean, look, man, that loss Alabama took last week. People are saying now they're not in the playoff. Those kids may think they're not in. There's nothing we can do. I mean, that's a new staff with a bunch of new guys that don't understand the standard. And then a bunch of guys, my understanding is this, that are on there that were left over from Saban that do understand the standard. And they've talked about there being conflict on that roster all year between new and old. I mean, it's been subtly hinted at. Now, they can turn it on like they did against LSU, another team with issues. But, boy, that loss to Oklahoma, I cannot rule. I can pretty much tell you that no matter how bad Ole Miss plays against Mississippi State probably does not have the horses to win. Same with god-awful Purdue and Purdue Pete in his face. But that Auburn, Alabama, at Iron Bowl, I can't really tell you that that's not going to be a very a competitive one, especially with Auburn needing to win to get another game, you know? So, and Auburn's got a lot of good
Yeah.
freshman players and stuff like that. So I didn't think there was a chance, but I tell you, with the upsets this weekend, I sort of felt like Florida would win because of the football gods. JB sort of felt like A&M would lose to Auburn on the Plains. JB, you kind of called that one. I thought Oklahoma may keep it close. Did not see that. Did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. I think when we did our picks on Friday, I did say I thought Florida, and I think I may agree with JB that hey, there's a chance that Auburn may slip up and get in there.
Weird stuff happens.
Well, we called all of them. The only one we didn't call was Oklahoma and Alabama.
Right. I didn't see that one coming.
I mean,
yeah, boy, it's something else. But
we got to get you out of here, man. We got to get to a break. I know we'll have you back to preview the ball game later on this week, but just quickly from this past weekend, slow start for the Gamecocks, but they certainly got it rolling. Lenore Sellers, 3 straight halves now that he's ended with a 1-minute touchdown drive. Everything's been about the defense, but the Carolina offense certainly is clicking.
Yeah, I'd say it's clicking pretty well. Lenore's is, we've been talking about it the past 4 or 5 weeks. He's just getting better. I mean, what was he, 23 or 27 for another 300-yard game, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown? So 4 touchdowns in that game. He had, 5 in the game before. So he's on a roll, and we just got to keep it going because, I mean, we know Clemson's defense is good. They're probably not as good as they have been in the past, but it's still a solid defense, and you're going up to Clemson to play. I like where the offense is going. We had a few missed assignments that gave up a sack or 2 last week with letting people run free through the line. We can get into that later, but the offense is coming around. Another 500-plus yard game. It's 2 in a row. You like to see it. I know it's Wofford, but we also had the backups in, at the end of the third quarter and fourth quarter. So.
Good for Bradley Dunn scoring a touchdown. And you heard it here first. Delvon Campbell is the next Jerry Rice. You heard it here first. Delvon Campbell, the next Jerry Rice. I'm calling it.
Hey, man, his routes these past 2 games, getting himself open, have been impressive. Been impressive.
Yeah. He is something. I mean, big old kid too, man. All right, John, we'll talk to you here in just a couple of days, man. Thanks for filling in on short notice. You're such a trooper. You're a great part of our ITG Chief Sports Network family here. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
All right, I'll see y'all later this week.